Can everybody see this okay? Bright enough? Okay. Remember, having a highlighter today is essential. Having a highlighter is essential. That way you know what you're looking for and what you're looking at. So if I'm looking at number 6, what do I need to make note of? It's a square root function. That's a great thing to make note of. What else do I need to make note of that pertains to finding the domain? The arrow, right? I heard you, Kylan. That was great. Thank you, Kingston. Both of y'all said it. We're looking at the arrow. What else is important? Where's the starting point? On the y-axis or the x-axis? On the y-axis, but what are we doing? Are we finding domain or are we finding range?
Range.
We're finding domain because this was yesterday's notes. So it might be 3 on the y-axis, but what is it for the x value? 0. So we have a point at x equals 0. So what is my leftmost value? 0. Remember, we're not doing range. We're doing x, which is domain. What's my rightmost value? Which one? There we go. Because it's going to which direction forever?
Right.
The right forever. Is this a function? Yes, because it passes the vertical line test. So, knowing that it starts at 0, so it has a point and an arrow, what should come first? If it has 1 point and an infinity, what should come first when you're writing the domain? X. How is going to equal R when there's not 2 infinities? Look back at your notes. Is what?
X greater than 0.
But you're missing something, correct? Is that an open or closed dot? It would have to be an equal to sign underneath that greater than, because it is a closed dot. This is why I wanted to talk about this problem. Make sense, Gavin? Is this what you got? You sure you did put 3?
Oh, I had put 3.
This is why I wanted to talk about it. It's all good, we make mistakes, but that's why we trust the teacher to do the teacher's job, right? Y'all too. Because how many of y'all can say y'all got this right? By yourself. Stevon, I don't know if I believe all of that.
But you didn't do the problem, you just
Exactly. Zah, we both know. I know you, you know you, we know you. We know that you did not do that. Moving on.
I got it right. You got it.
Stevon, I want to believe you.
I could believe him, but I was just watching what this took.
Oh, I know, I saw Zah writing, so there's no way he did this. Any questions?
I don't think that's funny.
I don't know. It was pretty funny to us because we all know you did not do this problem. So, any questions? Make sure that you... Okay, so range is different than domain because what values go with range? Y values. Remember from yesterday we called it multiple names. We called it Y. We called it what other name? Do you know? Not the y-axis, but what's another name for Y values? Think about the opposite. Well, that's a Y value on the y-axis. Not a bad thing. What other names? One starts with an O. What did you say?
He said opposite.
I thought he said quotient for a second. I was like, that's a Q. You're okay. I just thought that you said something different. So it starts with an O. Opposite of putting something in.
Output.
Output. Thank you. What's another one? Starts with another. Well, it starts with a D, and it's the opposite of being independent. Dependent variable. So are we talking about your parents today, or are we talking about you today? We're talking about you guys. So the range is the dependent variables, the Y values, all of the possible what values? What does it say up here? Output. So you didn't have to think too hard because you have just read what it said up there. Y values are from where? Or top to bottom? It depends on what kind of function you're looking at. Because you're looking for a maximum and a minimum still. So, writing the range, or finding the range in this case, is first finding the first and the last value, just like we did yesterday with domain, using the chart to plug them in. Remember, I told you yesterday, the chart is there to help those who need more visual cues. Y'all have been seeming to enjoy the way I do it better than the chart, so which means pick which one works best for you. I'm not going to tell you what works best for you. And then 3, move across the chart to use to final answer. The biggest thing we got to pay attention to is this square right here. That square is the actual summary of everything we need. So we read from negative to positive, and the inequalities are always what symbol? Less than. Because you read it from left to right, so everything is going to be less than. If it's an open circle, that means it is what? What does this not have, then this one does have? An equal to. So this one, if it's open, it is not equal to. If it's a closed circle, it is equal to. Open circle, not equal to. Closed circle is equal to. An arrow or off the grid means infinity, but infinity symbols are not allowed. Again, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. We might write it as x or y equals r, but if you are writing it in interval or inequality notation, you can use infinity symbols. That we use them all the time in algebra. All the time. Most people prefer it. Most of you prefer to just write the R. And that's okay with me. Do what makes you feel the most comfortable. I'm putting both when it comes to any testing that I give, whether it be y'all's class, my foundations class, or an Algebra 1 class. I put every possible answer on there because I don't feel like it's important to stifle it into one piece unless it needs to be done for context. Any questions here? All right. Moving past the chart, I'm not going to stress the chart. We're going straight into examples. Examine the graph at the right. Start from the bottom of the y-axis. So what is the lowest value that you see being used on the y-axis? On the y-axis. -1. It's right here. Because of that point. You can't assume it's -2. You have to look at the points. That is -1. What is the top value of this function of y being used? 3. So this first number is the bottom number, and the second number is the top number. So if you didn't know, now you do. Write those in. We have 2 points that we're referencing. So what would need to come first? -1. It's always what symbol? Less than. Would it be equal to or not equal to? Because that's a closed circle. Then what are we doing? Domain or range? So what variable needs to go in the middle? Bless you. Y. And then what goes after that? What is it equal to or not equal to? Is it equal to or not equal to? Equal to, because unless you see an open circle, you are to assume that it is closed. And what goes after that? Is this any different than what we did yesterday? No. It's just, except of going left and right, we're going where? Up and down, bottom to top, top to bottom. We're looking up and down. Any questions? Any at all? Look at B. Examine the graph at the right. What if there's not a point on one side? That means the graph does not stop. It's the same thing as domain, meaning there's an arrow. Draw an arrow at the edge of the graph. What is the bottommost y value being used? Negative infinity. Because where is that arrow going? What direction? That affects range. Down. Which means this is going to be the bottommost point. What is the topmost value being used on the y-axis? -2. So, if I only have one point, how will my range start? No. Try again. If you only have one point, what automatically needs to be written first? Y. Just like X. If you have one point, Y or X need to be written first. Then, what inequality symbol? Thank you, less than or equal to. Because is that an open or closed dot? Closed. And then what comes after that? If you're using the chart, it would have been negative infinity is less than that of y, which is less than or equal to that of -2, and they would want you to take this part and cancel it, so it would only leave this section. That's if you're using the chart. If you prefer the way I'm doing it, do it the way I do it. Any questions? Any at all? All right, flip it on over. Examine the graph at the right. What if there's points on the left and right? For range, we only care about the bottom and furthest top points. We don't care anything about the middle. We don't care anything about left and right. It is top and bottom most points. So, start at the bottom of the y-axis. What is the first value on the range at the lowest part? -4. It is right there. Can't miss it. What is the last value, the utmost value of the range? 5, because it's right there. We have 2 points, so what would need to come first? Less than or? Because if we don't see an open circle, we assume it's what? Closed. Then y, then y is it equal to? It's not open, so it's, there you go. If the store is not open, it's what, Zah? We're looking at that easy vocabulary, right? All right. Any questions here? Girl, you had me scared. You can grab your water bottle. Go on and grab it. D, examine the graph at the right. What if there are only arrows on the top and bottom? So, if you don't see them, put them there yourself. What is the bottommost value being used? Because where is this arrow down here going? Downward. Towards negative infinity. Where is this one going? Upward. Towards what? Positive infinity. Morning, Davis. So, do I see both directions being met? So how would I write my domain? Y equals R. Contrary to popular belief, that is not an I in front of that R, it is a double-sided R. So when people type in IR on the computer, it's going to say it's wrong because that's not an I, it's just an R. So you would just type R, that's it. Any questions? I'm just clarifying. Ooh. Examine the graph at the right. What if there are no points and no arrows? The edges of the graph are the points. So what is my bottommost edge? At -2. Where is my topmost edge? So what would be my range if I have 2 points here? Less than. Mm-hmm. Then. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. Any questions? When you don't see an open circle, you assume it's what? Closed. Thank you. Looking at F, what type of graph is this? What's the name? Discrete. It literally says it right there just in case. Start from the bottom. Write down every y value, bottom to top, which means least to greatest, and do not repeat numbers. So, what is the lowest y value being used? Negative 7. It's right there. Then, then, how many times is 7 being used? Are you sure? But do you write it twice? Nope, you write it once. Because it says, do not repeat. Any questions? Any at all? All right, you're doing 1, 3, and 4. 1, 3, and 4. Kylan, I'll let you do this one, that way you can get the grade, and then after you're finished, I'll send you straight back there with your computer. Or you can just pull it out right here at the desk. It's no big deal. Just make sure all your notes are put away. Everyone else, I'm putting a cute little timer up for 10 minutes. It says, is this a function? Is number 1 a function? Yes, because it does what? Passes the vertical line test, absolutely. I'm looking at the bottommost number. What is that? Negative 4 because of this point right there. Most people got that with no problem. But then you forgot that we're doing range and you started doing domain. What is the topmost point here being used? 2. Because you have to go that way to the y-axis, not the x-axis. That's where some of y'all messed up. And by some, I mean a good chunk missed that one. Acknowledgement is the first step in growth. So how would I write this range knowing I have 2 points? Negative 4. Less than or equal to? Why do I have equal to signs? They're both close points. I think I only had one person who was right there on the cusp of getting this. They didn't put nor equal to sign. So I didn't take off your whole thing. I still gave you more than 3/4 of that point. So I only took off 0.25 points, 0.25%. So any questions on number 1? 3. Is this a function? No, because does it pass the vertical line test? No. If I were to draw a vertical line right here, how many times does that line hit this graph? Twice. 1 there and 1 there. It's supposed to hit it how many times for it to be a function? Once. If it hits it more than once, it ain't a function. Y'all got to start making your own vertical lines. Bottommost point. Negative 3. You can't look at a number and assume. Mark where it is. Please. Majority got that one, but there was still a few that did not understand the concept of hitting the edge of the graph. Don't look at a number they gave you at the bottom. Is this tick mark anywhere close to that? So how can you assume that's negative 4? You can't. What's the topmost point? 3. Focus on the board. Focus on the board. I know it's hard, but is there any math happening up here with me? Can you see anything that I'm writing if you're looking at me the whole time? Do you think that correlates to you not understanding where the math is coming from? Yes, because you're looking to me instead of looking at the math and asking yourself what you do and do not see. Because unless you're looking at me and Miss Davis to ask us a direct question, I shouldn't see your eyes hit me while I'm explaining something. Because my hands are right here in front of you. Can you see this paper behind me? My monitor's off. What are you looking at? I understand. Beauty is a hard thing to ignore. I know that. Obviously, I take very good care of myself. But I don't need you looking up here. I need you looking up there. I know I look good. You ain't got to tell me. I don't need y'all. Okay? Because between me and this group, I have a husband. You know? So, it's set in stone. Most of y'all can't maintain a friendship, let alone a relationship. Didn't expect to get ate up this early. So, focus your eyes up there. I said what I said. What's the topmost point?
3.
Thank you. Don't assume, mark the edge. Ms. Davis, I don't think they were ready for that. How would I write this range given 2 points? Thank you. Because when you don't see an open circle, you assume that it's what? Closed. Any questions? Now this bottom one, I had high hopes for those who were looking at it, but then you went right back into domain. You didn't think about the fact that you were doing range. So a lot of people miss the same 2 parts of this question. So is this a function? Yes, because does it pass the vertical line test?
Yes.
It sure does. If I were to move this line I just drew left and right, it would only hit the graph 1 time. So those who keep telling me that this is not a function, you need to revisit the notes from 3.3. Because it answers that question perfectly. This is a function. Yes. Sir.
How do you do the vertical line?
You draw a vertical line.
Like, what do you...
And then you move it left and right. You can do this with a pencil. And you ask, if my line's right there, how many times does it hit the graph? Once. That makes it a function. If I move it over here, how many times does it hit it? That makes it a function. That means if I take that line and move it left and right, how many times will it hit the graph?
1 time.
That's a function. No, once. Because I'm moving the same line left and right.
Yeah.
But if I were to move this same line left and right, how many times will it hit?
Once.
When did it hit up here? Count with me. How many times is that a hit?
1, 2.
If I take it and move it, will it also hit it twice there?
Yeah.
Will it also hit it twice there?
Yeah.
If it hits it more than once, that is not a function. That's why this is something that you need to understand abstractly and kinetically. Because if you have a piece of paper and you use your pen, move it left to right, ask how many times does that graph hit my pen? 1 time. Use your hands. You can also use your finger as a vertical line. It's something that you're born with. You got it. Be blessed. Your first tools were your fingers. But now you got other tools, like a pen or a pencil. Make sense? So, what is the bottommost value being used here? Because where are these 2 arrows pointing? Both are pointing down. So you can't say one's pointing up and one's pointing down. They're both pointing. Because this is opening downwards. So, it's going towards negative infinity for both arrows. Do I have a topmost point?
4.
At 4. You can't assume. You have to make your point and draw to the axis that you're looking for. 3 was the number that's the y-intercept. But I didn't ask for the y-intercept. I asked what is the highest y value being used? What is the tip top being used? What's 1 notch up from 3? 4. And that's where a lot of people started to unravel, was right here. So, looking at this, what is my range?
1 equals 4.
Not quite, but you had me in the first half. Try again.
Is y less than equal to?
There we go. We can't say equal because that would be a horizontal line. This is not a horizontal line. It's a quadratic graph. So you have to use an inequality. Both of these arrows are pointing where? Down. So every number is what compared to 4? Less than, because there's 3, 2, 1, 0, -1, and so on and so forth. So it has to be less than. Any questions? Make sense?
I got one question.
I'm listening.
Well, so never mind. That makes sense because top, it says top right there.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
I love how you answered your own question. I was so ready for the question, and you go, no, I got it. Look at number 6, please, and thank you. We saw one that looked just like this one, but we're not asking for domain, we're asking for what? Range. That's a little bit different. So, do I still need to make the same observations I made with the first question? Yes, absolutely. But now you're focusing on which two directions?
Up and down.
Up and down, bottom and top. So, we still have a point here, and we still have an arrow there. We still have a point here, we still have an arrow there. Is this a function? Yes, because it does what? It passes the vertical line test, which means if we were to do a vertical line left and right, it only hits it how many times? Once. There you go. What is the bottom-most value being used? Just 3. Where's the negative coming from? That's above 0. Don't assume. Read. Count. Okay? If 0's here, that's 1, 2, 3. What's the topmost value being used? Infinity. Because there's an arrow going where? Towards. So what's my range?
Y. Wait, Y.
How is it less than if it's going up? What values, how does 5 compare to 3? How does 5 compare to 3? It's what? We don't use that. We use a different word. Greater. So what inequality symbol do you need to use? Or, because it's at a closed dot. So what goes after that? 3. You see how you have to understand those fundamental skills. You have to know direction. Direction, usually people are like, that's a physics thing. You use a coordinate plane in physics, except you don't have 2 coordinates, you have 3 of them. You have X, Y, and Z. Z comes out of the page. Any questions? Looking over this, it's very straightforward. Very, very straightforward. Use the examples that were given. You have time working on this. Don't sit and wait, because your grade shows it. Put forth the effort. It's easy to sit and do nothing. Do something and make it count.